Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. In today's video we are going to be testing out another dupe for the Desert Dusk palette from Huda. This time it's the W7 Dusk Till Dawn palette. This is how the Huda Beauty palette looks like. It has this absolutely gorgeous outer packaging with Huda's eyes, and inside you get 18 different shades, mainly gold, purple and burgundy shades, and 4 different textures. Whilst the Dusk Till Dawn palette looks like this. The outer packaging has a road, a mountain, and obviously a sunset, and inside you get 14 shades, so it's 4 shades less than the Huda Beauty palette does, and you get the brush with it as well. Obviously this is the same packaging as the Anastasia Beverly Hills palette dupes, but this time it's not really working because it doesn't give the same number of shades as the original palette does, and this is gonna be the only palette out of the 4 dupes that is like this. Officially the Dusk Till Dawn palette retails for £10, but I don't think anyone ever paid £10 for it. Most people will pick it up in B&M or in TK Maxx or online for £5 or £6 maximum. It has 18 months shelf life, which is quite good, and it contains 9.6 grams of product, which is understandable because it has less shades than the Huda Beauty palette does. However, the Huda Beauty palette contains 25.2 grams of products, which is almost 3 times as much as this one does. On the other hand, the Huda Beauty palette does retail for £56, which is quite a big difference, and it also has only 12 months shelf life. I think with an eyeshadow palette having 12 months shelf life is not really fair, because even if it was the only palette you ever used, you would hardly be able to finish with all of the shades. So that is definitely something to consider. 12 months shelf life is not the best. W7 is a UK-based company, so the product was developed in England, but it was made in the People's Republic of China, whilst the Huda Beauty palette was made in Italy. Like I said, the Huda Beauty palette has 4 different finishes. It has matte shades, pressed pearl shades, which are my favorites and probably the best performing shades from this palette. It also has 4 duochrome topper shades, which are my least favorite shades from this palette and in general as well, right along with this pure glitter shades just like this. I hate them in the new nude palette, I hate them in this palette. I'm so glad she doesn't have them anymore in the Mercury Retrograde palette. In the Dusk Till Dawn palette, there's nothing like this. You have 1 row of matte shades and 1 row of shimmery shades. None of them is a topper shade, none of them is a glitter shade. I must say that overall the shiny shades are quite good in this palette. However, the matte shades are all really disappointing. You will see in a second when we start creating this eyed makeup look how much I struggled with every single matte shade I tried to use. Basically the problem is that the shade doesn't want to build up. The first time you try to apply some, it sticks to the skin, but you cannot build it up, meaning that you're gonna be stuck with just a little bit of a sheer layer of the matte shade, and it doesn't get any darker. This eye today was created using the Desert Dusk palette. I feel like the shades went exactly where I wanted them to be. I was able to build it up really nicely, and I love how it turned out. Whilst this one is the W7 side. Because I applied this black eyeliner, you can't really tell, but basically the matte shade is completely missing. This shimmery shade that is supposed to be the dupe for the Kashmir shade applied absolutely gorgeous, and even the second one that is a kind of a dupe for the retrograde shade, even though it's not duochrome like it should be, applied absolutely fine. But the matte shades No, just no. So this is the second installment in this series. As I told you in the first installment, I go by my own expectations, and I'm not gonna lie, I expected a lot more from this W7 palette, especially because of my latest experience with their Anastasia dupes and the Socialite palette that was the dupe for the new nude palette. I feel like those dupes were really nice, but this one is a big letdown for me. So I don't know if I can honestly recommend it to you. I'm gonna include some swatches for you now to show you how they both swatch. Obviously these are finger swatches, and because finger swatches are so different from the actual swatches, as you can see in the top row where I was swatching the Dusk Till Dawn palette, the swatches turned out absolutely fine, and I thought I was getting a really nice dupe for the Huda Beauty palette. And I was really happy because this is the palette that you can actually just go into the store and pick up. All other palettes require you to order online and wait for weeks and weeks and weeks. And if we can, obviously we want to avoid that. But I don't think that this palette is the best you can get as a dupe for sure. So without further ado, I'm just gonna jump right into creating this look and showing you why I think that this is not the best dupe you can get. Let's jump right into the tutorial. Alright, so even though we are not working with really dark shades today, I decided to add some shadow shades mainly as a guideline to where the dark colors should end, because I find it much easier this way to kind of make the two eyes more symmetric. I'm gonna be using the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette on this side of the face today, and the W7 Dusk Till Dawn palette on this side of the face. First I'm gonna start with setting the primer using the shade Desert Sand, which is a beautiful skin toned shade. At least it's skin toned on my skin, and it's perfect to set your primer or to help you blend out any of the darker shades if you're struggling. The W7 palette has a shade similar to this called Wanderer. So I'm taking some of Wanderer now and just set the other side. So the next color I want to use from the Desert Dusk palette is called Mask. My only issue is that whilst this shade has something similar in the W7 palette, as you can see, it is actually completely different once you swatch them. The shade I'm talking about is the shade Llama. This is the one that's supposed to be that lighter brown shade in the palette, but the one in the Desert Dusk palette is really light and really cool toned, while this one is quite rich. It's almost like a coffee color. So I'm still gonna use them because I need that crease color, but I know already that they're gonna be completely different. So first I take the shade Mask from the Desert Dusk palette, and I'm gonna be applying this color to my crease. In my opinion, this is a gorgeous color. I absolutely love shades like this that are like a really light brown, very cool toned, perfect for creating shadow but looking still natural. I have a really cool toned skin, so for me something like this looks a million times better on the crease than a warm brown or orange shade would. I absolutely love this color. As you guys could tell from the video so far, this eye makeup we're creating today is really simple. I'm not saying that I feel super limited using the W7 palette, but this is the only dupe that doesn't have the same number of shades as the Huda Beauty version does. So whilst I don't feel super limited as far as the looks I can create goes, I also don't feel completely free to do whatever I want, if that makes sense. So yes, I am trying to create something with the shades I know I will be able to use from both palettes, simply because it wouldn't be a fair comparison if I wasn't. However, like I said before, this shade Llama is really different, so I feel like I'm already failing. I definitely feel that W7 should switch up the way their palettes look sometimes, and I feel like they actually started, because if you think about it, the dupe that they did for the new nude palette, which I reviewed not that long ago here on my channel, that palette is called Socialite, and that is in a different packaging, and it's an exact copy of the Huda palette. So I feel like now they realized that if the palette you're duping has 18 shades, then maybe your palette should as well, because otherwise you're basically limited in how many shades you can dupe, and your customers might end up picking up someone else's dupe because of that. So building up this brown shade was really quick. Obviously completely different than the other side. I don't actually know if the plan was to dupe this one. I don't think so. I think they just wanted to add something. I wish they added something gray like this one, but you know, we are working with whatever we have. And the next thing is going to be to take a teeny tiny brush and dip it into the shade Amethyst, because we are trying to add a bit of a purple to this look. God, I feel like this Amethyst is the worst matte shade in this palette. It's so chalky, and it takes a really long time to kind of build it up. After that's done, I take a larger brush and I take some more of the shade Amethyst and add it to my outer corner, almost just like in a V shape. So that's it for now. Don't worry if it doesn't look perfect, because after we cut the crease we are gonna come back and build this shade up a lot more, so just leave it like that for now. Now we're gonna take the purple shade from the W7 palette. I cannot actually pronounce the name of this shade. I think it's called Ayahuasca. I have no idea what that means, and I have no idea why they call it like that, but basically this is the equivalent of the Amethyst shade from the other palette. And I'm gonna take that color and basically repeat the same thing we did on the other side. Just run it through the crease, and then obviously we are going to take a different brush and build it up a bit more on the outer V. This is a quite nice and pigmented color, but I am getting a lot of fallout from it, especially in my inner corner, which I don't like, because I feel like the inner corner is always a bit harder to fix than the rest of the eye makeup look. So I'm trying to be careful, but it's not really working. I'm trying to build up the shade, applying it with a tapping motion, but it doesn't really want to build up, and I'm getting a ton of fallout, as you can see. Basically the color is not really sticking to the skin, instead it's just falling down on the face. Well, thanks God I decided to put on the shadow shield. Okay, so before we go any further with this eye makeup look, I'm gonna go off camera now and I'm gonna quickly cut the crease, and then I will be back to apply the shiny shade in the inner corner. Okay, so I think now that the cut crease is done, the two sides look a lot more similar, so it's looking good right now. Let's see how it goes after we apply the shiny shade. So from the Desert Dusk palette, I'm gonna take the shade Kashmir and apply it basically all over the cut crease. So that's the Huda Beauty side so far. Again, it's not finished yet. Now we're taking the shade Mirage from the W7 palette. Okay, I was a bit worried because in the pan Mirage looks quite a few shades darker than Kashmir does, but I feel like once you apply them on your eyes, they look exactly the same. So that's looking really good so far. Now we're taking the small brush again and take some more of the shade Amethyst to emphasize the line we applied before. Even though Amethyst is a quite dry shade, I must say you are getting basically no fallout from it. I would rather go back a couple more times and build up that color than having an immediate fallout all over the face. Now we take this purple shade with this unpronounceable name again and try to do the same thing here. Just be careful because this shade does have a lot of fallout and you don't want it to fall all over the shade Mirage. Now to darken up the outer corner, I'm gonna take some of the shade out and just add it to that outer V. And after that I take some more of the shade Amethyst and kind of mix it in with Oud because I want this to stay purple. In the W7 palette, the dark brown shade is called Dark. Unfortunately, Dark seems to be another shade that would rather fall on your face than to do anything. Nevertheless, I'm gonna need to try to mix it in with the purple color to kind of replicate what's on the other side. But it's not getting any darker. Unfortunately, the matte shades in this W7 palette are not the best. Okay, so now I'm gonna go off camera. I'm gonna take off these shadow shields and I'm gonna clean up around my eyes a little bit to really be able to see how we're doing so far. I can already tell that the Huda Beauty side looks a hell of a lot better. Obviously, we're gonna see if we can fix that. Alright, so as you guys can see, I removed the shadow shields and I cleaned up under my eyes a little bit. I also added some of the dark purple shade under both eyes. The W7 side is looking, well, not good. The shiny shade, like I said, is gorgeous. It's exactly the same as the Huda Beauty version, but the purple and the brown shades do not want to stick to the skin. Whatever I do, all it does is crumbles off on my cheek. So I give up with these matte shades from the W7 palette. You cannot build them up. You can see that here where it can stick to the concealer a little bit, it got darker, but as soon as it's supposed to stick on top of the previous shade, it's gone. It does not stick to the skin in that area whatsoever. As you can see on the Huda Beauty side, I had no problem with that. So there is one more shade I wanted to add before we finish this eye makeup look, and that is going to go in the border of Kashmir and the darker purple shade. And the shade I want to add there is called Retrograde. Now this is another one of these topper shades, so as far as I understand, it's gonna turn the edge of Kashmir to a more purplish shade, and it's also going to turn the beginning of the dark purple shade a bit shimmery, helping that transition between the two shades, and it's also supposed to add an interesting twist to this look. At least that's what I'm hoping. I'm simply going to take some of the shade with my finger and just tap it on. Okay, so as you can see, I am getting quite a lot of fallout. I was honestly not expecting that because the other duochrome shade, Twilight, produces no fallout, so I'm a bit surprised about that. I do feel like I managed to achieve what I wanted, but I don't think retrograde is as special as I was hoping it to be. Also, you don't have any of those duochrome shades on the other side. You do have something that's supposed to be the dupe of retrograde, but honestly I don't think this is a duochrome shade. Nevertheless, I'm going to take it because we do need something. It looks really bad on that side. It is a quite nice shimmery dark brown shade. I'm not mad about that. It definitely made that eye look a lot better. Still very far from looking good, but it looks better now. Okay, so now I'm gonna go off camera again. I'm gonna finish my eye makeup look, add some lipstick, and then I'll be back. So this is the finished makeup look. I definitely think that adding some eyeliner and mascara evened out the two sides, so the W7 side looks a lot better than it did before, but it's still really underwhelming. I feel like lately I had some really good experience with W7 palettes. However, I must say that this is not one of their newest palettes, so it could be just the fact that since this one came out, they improved the formula. Like I said, this is the second one from the 4 palettes that I'm testing out for the Desert Dusk palette, and unfortunately I would not recommend this one. I think out of these two, the Beauty Grace palette still performed better. That one wasn't perfect either, but I was able to build up the dark shades if I wanted. With this palette, unfortunately not. So yeah, I'm getting really excited because the other 2 palettes I have left, they are really good, so definitely stay tuned for those. If you like this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because I would love to have you here. I will see you very soon. Bye.